Ladies and gentlemen and photographers and video designers, we're going to do part 2. We're going to edit one of our pictures in Photoshop. So if we take a look at the assignment here, tweak one of the 5 photo challenges. Basically the idea is you pick one of the pictures, you're going to make some changes in Photoshop, and you're going to get points for that, where you're going to compare the original to the changed one. So make sure you keep the original and you keep the changed one, so I can come by and I can check on both of them. So do me a favor, and our usual thing, read through the scoring guide and write down what is one intelligent question about this assignment. Tweak one photo in Photoshop, and write that down. All right, so now that you've written down your question, I'm going to show you what to do. So what we are going to do is we're going to pick one picture. I'm going to pick the first one, and we're going to save it as it is, and then we're going to make a copy of it in Photoshop, and then I'm going to compare the two. So our first step is to open it into Photoshop. So we're going to go File, Open, and I'm going to open up this one that I said, and then I'm going to save it. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to save it instead of a JPEG, I'm going to save it as a PSD, a Photoshop document. And I'm going to give this name 001 Red Small Photo Edit. So now I have both of them. I have my original and I have my edit. And I'm going to click OK. All right. So so you can do whatever you want to this thing. You can do whatever you want that we've already learned in Photoshop. I'm going to show you a couple of things that I'm going to do. The first thing to do is to get the framing correct. So I'm going to click on the crop tool, and on this one I want it to be 6.5 inches by 10 inches tall. And we want the resolution to be 300. Okay, and so it's going to force it to be a particular size to match the size I just said. So let's move it around. So I want this thing to be in one of the PowerPoints in one of the golden sections. So I'm going to put it right there, and I'm going to hit Enter, and it's going to crop the picture. And if I go image size, notice that the resolution is 300, which is important. Okay, so now the next thing, so again, you can do whatever you want to do, following some of the stuff we've done. But what I want to do is I want to blur out the edges of this thing. So I want this to be in focus, and I want to force the rest of these things to be blurred. Okay, so in order to get this thing blurred, so I want this flower to be in focus, and I want the rest of this to look blurred. Now normally you would do that when you take the picture, but since I didn't, we're going to have to do it in Photoshop. So here's what you do. You come to this layer and you drag it down here to make a copy of it. Okay, so we have 2 layers with the exact same thing on it. But on this upper layer, I'm going to add a filter. So I'm going to go Filter, Blur, and I'm going to add a Gaussian blur. And I can adjust it. You can see what it does to the picture. So you can adjust it less blur or more blur. But I want it actually pretty significantly blurry, like that. And then I'm going to click OK. All right, so I have this layer that's blurry, this one that's not. So if I turn this layer off, you can see that underneath it, it's perfectly clear, and on top it's blurry. Now, what I want to do is I want to get rid of the blurriness here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a mask, okay, and I have my layer mask, and I want to I'm going to start off masking the whole thing. So I can do that a number of ways. I can click on the mask, and I can paint black. And so I can paint the whole thing black, and that's going to basically get rid of it. So you can see here, everything that's black makes this thing disappear. Everything that's white, it shows up. I'm going to do it a faster way. I'm going to go down here to the paint bucket tool, make sure I'm painting black, and I'm going to paint the whole thing in black. Okay, so if you look here, it's totally, well, it's not totally black. It's because I messed up. So I'm going to go through and paint this in and make sure that it's all black. Okay, so it's pretty good. So that's clear. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my eraser tool, and I'm going to make sure the eraser is very fuzzy, so not very hard, and pretty large. And so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to start fuzzing out the area. So you can see I'm deleting some of the masks. So everything I want to be blurry, I can just go like this, and I can fuzz it out just the way I like. So I've made this in focus and everything else blurry. Okay, so like I said, you can do whatever you want to this picture. I'm going to look at the changes you've made and grade it based on your good use of Photoshop, but now at this point I'm going to go File and Save. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to save it as a JPEG now so I can use it in my video slideshow. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to save it as a JPEG, and make sure it's in my picture assets and hit Save. Okay, and I'm going to click OK, and that's it for part 2.